Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a very interesting show for you today. Yep, who's got it worse? And this is a pretty easy one to answer. It won't take me long. But I didn't do a show yesterday because I was playing golf.
I was unavoidably detained.
But I would have done one on FSU, obviously. I just figured they would beat Boston College, especially at home on a Monday night. But that didn't happen. Now, while I'm certainly no fan of DJ and what he's, brings to the table, I thought at home they'd be good enough to win. They didn't even come close. And as many of you know, there are plenty of detractors out there that enjoy it when FSU loses.
I don't know what happened today.
All right, that was after the first game, but let me assure you, there's plenty out there that are probably feeling the same way. Sorry to have to show that to you, FSU fans, but you know how it is when it comes to college sports. Folks are going to enjoy a loss. So anyway, let's get into who's got it the best of these four, and it's very obvious to me. Yeah, that's going to be LSU. LSU, for some reason, they've lost the last five opening games, last 5 seasons. Brian Kelly's been 3 of those. And LSU's been a darn good team for the most part. His first year, they went 10-4, and they actually shared by winning the West part of the SEC when they beat Alabama. And then the next year, after losing the opening game, they went 10-3. So this is a good club. But for some reason, they can't win the opener. And Brian Kelly is not happy about it.
And we're sitting here again. We're sitting here again talking about the same things. About not finishing when you have an opponent in a position to put them away. But what we're doing on the sideline is feeling like the game's over. And I'm so angry about it that I got to do something about it. I'm not doing a good enough job as a coach. And I got to coach him better because it's unacceptable for us not to have found a way to win this football game. It's ridiculous.
That sounds like the exact opposite of Shane Beamer. I mean, he's mad. He is not happy, and that was a very close game. Shane Beamer, they're celebrating in the locker room after beating the trucking company, Old Dominion. And we'll get into South Carolina here in a minute. But I got to think LSU is going to be fine of those 4. Now let's talk about a club that really is shocking me right now. And again, I was no fan of bringing in DJ. I thought that was a big mistake because if you'll remember, he struggled so badly at Clemson. And Florida State had seen that. Mike Norvell, who's a good coach, he saw that. So how could you possibly think this was a good idea? It's not like FSU doesn't have money. They got plenty of money. There was a bunch of guys out there that you could have brought in. Notre Dame found a guy. Kentucky found a guy. Miami sure as crap found a guy with Cam Ward, and you go and you get DJ. And look, before anybody gets on me, DJ's making a lot of money, okay? He is a paid athlete. He's a professional, and the guy's almost 30 years old, for gosh sakes. He's been playing college football for like 6-7 years. So relax for a minute. He's making way more money than you and I are. But needless to say, FSU losing the first 2 ball games, one of which at home, is a shocker. And I thought they'd still be good enough to get through even with a pedestrian quarterback. But I'm wondering if the team isn't kind of quitting on them a little bit there at the end. I know they did because they gave up a ton of yardage. You're right here, folks. Boston College ran for 263 yards. Again, some of that, it just almost felt like the defense kind of quit. But here's the thing. They were giving up yardage on the ground all the entire game from start to finish. So it wasn't just that. So that vaunted Florida State defensive line is just not there like it was last year at all. And here's the other shocker. Florida State ran for 21 yards, a 1.3 yard average against Boston College. This is not Georgia they played. This is not Alabama. This is not some preeminent big-time SEC school. No, Boston College, okay? And they shut them down. The only yardage they had was when DJ occasionally connected. And here's the thing about a quarterback who's not consistent. I've seen this for decades. I've been watching football for so long, I hate to even tell you how long. Here's what happens when you're an inconsistent quarterback. The receivers don't get in a rhythm. They don't know if you're going to hit them in the hands or not. So when you occasionally do, they're almost in shock. They're, oh my God, it's right there. I didn't have to jump on the ground to go after it because DJ likes to throw it at the dirt. So he not only didn't play well, but his receivers didn't help him that much. There was a couple of passes where he put it right in the breadbasket and the guy just fumbled it out. So you look at his numbers, he wound up with 272 yards with 1 TD, 1 INT with a QBR of 27.4, which is pitiful. 50% completion rate. And Boston College just chewed up the ground, and they had the ball a long time. You sit here and you look at this time of possession, they had the ball for 39 minutes, whereas Florida State had it for 21 minutes. That kills your defense, especially when it was brutally hot and humid. Your defense, they run out of steam. You cannot be out there 2/3 of the time on defense and expect to finish strong. You're just not going to do it. You're going to struggle. And here's the thing. Boston College had all kinds of problems with cramps. That's one of the touchdowns that FSU scored was when their best cornerback went out with cramps. They punished this young guy that came in and couldn't handle one of your bigger receivers. But they were only out there 19 minutes, and they were cramping up like crazy. If you could have run the ball at all, if you could have got 100 yards rushing, you probably have a chance to win that game because their defense would have fallen apart. They're not used to that vicious weather down there in Florida. Up in Boston College, you can try to be in great shape, but when you go down and play in that level of humidity, it drains you. That heat and that moisture being sucked out of you, it's terrible. And FSU's used to that. Boston College is not. So I don't know what FSU can do at this point. I don't know if they've got anybody behind DJ that can do much better. And if you put in a young guy, it's risky because the rest of the team may not like it. Let's listen to a Florida State YouTuber who follows FSU closely. And this is Locked On Seminoles.
FSU and Florida are a sinking ship. To be honest with you, I can't really argue with that. Malik, right now, I don't know who would win on a neutral field between Florida State and Florida because they both stink. It would probably be the team that just had fewer turnovers and they might win 6-3 or something. They both stink. Let's talk a little more about the quarterback position. Joey says Brock Glenn may not be a better alternative. His performance against Louisville and Georgia don't inspire a lot of confidence. Again, like I've said before, both with Cromahawk and Glenn, it's not a matter of talent. There are two positions on the gridiron where experience is almost always paramount. There are very few exceptions. Caleb Williams, Drake May, the Seth Hennigan guy. He was a freshman that played 3 years ago. But by and large, you need to be at least in your third year removed from high school. I've studied this till I'm blue in the face before you're even mediocre at the quarterback position in a Power 4 conference. Whenever you hear somebody, and it doesn't be Florida State, this could be pro level or anything else. Whenever you hear somebody say, oh, just play the younger players for next year. Doesn't work that way. And here's why. The older players will quit. If you think you're getting the same effort out of seniors or last year players, if they think you're preparing for the season after they're there, you are high as a kite. Done. Florida State would tank. Here's the problem. There's no fixing that. That's not a Norvell situation. That is every coach. It's why they don't do it.
Yeah, that's the problem. They went all in on DJ to handle this year and let the other guys learn and get developed. The problem is all the chips are in this one. It's just not a good situation at all. It's not. So they're between a rock and a hard place. They're not in the worst position, though, because you've got a good coach. Norvell won at Memphis, and he's won at Florida State. Yeah, he was 38-5 at Memphis. His last year in 2019, he was 12-1. And the last 2 years at Florida State, he was 10-3 and 13-1. So I think you're okay at coaching. I don't think that's the issue, even though he made a terrible mistake and not going out and getting a proven guy. It's this can be a tough season for you. You're not in the worst situation, but it's not good because on Twitter, they're wearing y'all out. Here's actually one that kind of shows you what they think of DJ's throwing prowess. Yeah, they're not impressed. Anyway, so you're probably going to be seeing that on Twitter all year long if that doesn't improve. I don't know. I thought 8-4, 9-3 would probably be the record after I saw that first game. I'm down to 7-5, 6-6 now. I'm concerned about Florida State. And I have a lot in common with Florida State because we both can't stand Florida. So I'm not rooting against them by any stretch, but something's got to give there. I don't know what they're going to do. If they stick with DJ, you saw what you're going to get. If you go with a younger guy, you just heard what the Locked On guy said. And by the way, one of the things I like about Locked On, they'll tell you what they think. You know, they're not going to sit up there and tell you everything's roses when it's not. So anyway, I thought that was pretty interesting what that dude said. All right, now let's get into South Carolina and Florida. Let's start with South Carolina. He's starting a redshirt freshman in Lenore Sellers, a guy I've told you I think is a tremendous athlete, but he needs to be developed as a quarterback. He's not there yet, and I saw it in the spring game. His fundamentals weren't there, and his footwork's not there. He needs more time. He either needs to have gone to a smaller college and started and gotten some experience that way and developed that way, or come to a big team like South Carolina and be developed for 2 or 3 years, not 1 year. He's not ready. He's a 3-star for a reason with a big upside. This is going to be rough if you continue down this path with him.
We were, the ball over there to Nick on their sideline was just a high throw. I think that's just probably more mechanics by Lenore's that will get cleaned up without a doubt.
Are you going to get it cleaned up? Are you? No, you're not. You're not going to get it cleaned up. That's not how this works. Just like the Locked On guy said, it takes about 3 years to get good at quarterback unless you're just a phenom. If you're Nico Iamaleava, yeah, you can be great right off the bat. There's a few guys like that, but if you're a 3-star coming in, you need time. And that's what you're dealing with. And he at least sees it. I saw it the spring game. That's why I can't believe South Carolina didn't go out and get a big-time quarterback like they did with Spencer Rattler. South Carolina's not poor. They're an SEC team. They do have plenty of money, not like a lot of the SEC clubs, but, they can go out and afford a Spencer Rattler like they got 2 years ago. They thought, oh, well, Lenore's might transfer out. Well, so what? That happens. You lost a 3-star that's got an upside. Whoop-de-doo. You got to worry about this year, Shane. You're coming off a losing season. You're risking your whole career right now on this guy. And who you got behind him, you got a guy that was at Auburn, Ashford, who was just very average and lost his starting role. So, I don't know. Not looking good. But here's the one great thing about South Carolina.
We're celebrating in the locker room. Winning's hard. So some people may not like that. We celebrate wins around here. So we're celebrating in that locker room because our guys have worked too damn hard since January to not go in there and have some fun and celebrate a win because we only get 12 of these that are guaranteed.
Well, Shane, you celebrate all you want your 23-19 victory over that trucking company because you're going up against Kentucky next week at Kentucky. And they went out and they got a 5-star quarterback back up to Carson Beck. And he looked great in that first ball game. He only played a little over 2 quarters, and he was throwing the ball all over the yard, man. He looked great. And Kentucky's defense, this is not Old Dominion's defense. This is a Mark Stoops defense, and they'll knock you in the mouth. I'm telling you, Kentucky is a solid defense. Lenore's is going to have a tough time up there in Kentucky land. So it's not good, but there is one team that's got it worse. And I don't think there's any question. And that's Billy Napier and the Florida Gators. Wow, Miami just absolutely kicked them in the teeth at the Swamp.
At the Swamp!
You can't do that at the Swamp. It's impossible. They absolutely boat raced them. It was unreal. And Billy is not taking the criticism well. And he's going on his 3rd losing season in a row. Florida's 4th losing season in a row, by the way, which is phenomenal. I can't even believe that's happening when you've got a recruiting footprint and the money and the fan base that Florida's got. This is absurd. And this is what happens when you go get a coach from the Sun Belt who's not proven on the upper level. You are rolling the dice big time. And here's the thing. You're giving Billy Napier crap. He's going to be super rich. When he leaves, after making a ton of money already, he's going to get $26 million. Same with Shane Beamer.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
Because Beamer had those 2 magical wins somehow, he's going to get about $20 million when he leaves. So don't feel sorry for these coaches. They are getting generational wealth. They are failing up on an epic level. They'll never have to work another day in their life if they don't want to. and they'll leave. They can just live off the interest. Anyway, let's see what Billy had to say about losing last week.
On the football part, and I think we got to become a more consistent team, and we have to execute better. And if we can focus on those things and not necessarily what some guy in his basement saying in rural Central Florida on social media, then we got a chance to get better, right? So,
first of all, I'm not in my basement, and I'm not in rural Florida. I'm in rural Tennessee. That's number one. It's a bonus room. Number two, you don't attack your own fans. That's the dumbest thing in the world. Plus, there are no basements in Florida. You dig a hole in Florida, you get a pond. Knucklehead. We're not in Cookeville, Tennessee, where you're from. Not a dissimilar place to where I live, by the way. And I like Cookeville. Played a lot of golf there. But anyway, he just committed the cardinal sin, as they say, and it's not a good situation. I think he's as good as toast at this point. Now, they'll probably put in DJ Lagway in this next game because, as you know, Graham Mertz got a concussion and he's in protocol. So I don't think there's any way he plays. I would be shocked. Unless he just shows up and all of a sudden he has no symptoms, and I would hold him out. You don't need him. DJ Lagway, this will give him a chance to get some experience. And he was a 5-star. DJ's a big-time player. He's not ready to play as a freshman, but he could probably do as well as Graham Mertz at this point. And you're playing like Sanford and Son or whatever.
You big dummy.
So you shouldn't have any trouble with this team. So you'll win by at least 20 or 30 points without question, maybe more. But then after that, you got the rest of the season, and it's not looking good. Yeah, you got Texas A&M next. Connor Wagman didn't look good. Man, I thought he was going to ball out this year. He was a big-time 5-star and had played well last year under Jimbo, but played terrible in his first game against Notre Dame. But you still got to play Texas A&M, and they've got tons of talent. You will struggle against them. Maybe you could win that game. Then you're at Mississippi State. So who knows? Maybe you could somehow pull off some miracle and be 2-2 or even 3-1. Can you imagine? Man, that takes some heat off of you. But then it gets tougher, and then it gets toughest. UCF is going to be waiting on you with Gus Malzahn. They can't wait to play you. Then you got to come to Neyland.
I can't wait for you to come to Neyland.
We're going to be waiting for you. Then Kentucky, which you've been really struggling with Kentucky, and they're going to be tough with Brock Vandagriff. And then depression sets in. Oh, yeah, it's going to be ugly. Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, and Florida State. Although Florida State, maybe it's not as bad as I thought it was. That used to be a tough ending at the end. But that's 4 straight top 10 teams. Or, well, LSU will probably be top 10 by the time we get to that. So I think Billy's done. I really do. I think it's only a matter of time. And everybody is pretty much saying that. The Florida fan bases, I showed you the other day, I showed you High Top Sports, Allie Peak, and Josh Prey. They're done. They've checked out. They're going to do their best, and maybe if he wins a few games, they'll try to be, somewhat supportive. But everybody's checking out on Billy Napier, which means the team has probably done the same. Because once everybody on social media checks out on you, you're done. It's over. As Don Meredith would say, turn out the lights, the party's over. Anyway, if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's continue to cover all these big sports stories. If you've not subscribed, boom, boom, boom. Hit that little button right there. It'll help you get my videos, and I won't ever sing again. Maybe. You have that going for you. See, there's something in it for you.
Really?
No, not really. I can't back that up.
And right over here is a most recent video that YouTube thinks you'll enjoy. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.